First, you'll have to remove this access side of the hoist to get to the connectors. This side of the hoist is the side that houses the limits. You can see the access points on the top. That'll help identify which side it is you need to remove. Once your hoist is open, you're going to pull out the harnesses to straighten them out so you can see and identify which one is which. And then you're going to remove the 3 knockout slugs from inside. One of these slugs will be reused for adapting the cable. The other 2 are being removed temporarily for installing the encoder. Next, you're going to install your encoder. Take your encoder out of its enclosure that it was shipped in. And we're going to take this encoder and we're going to mark it to identify where the set screws are for installation. This is just to make it easier for you so you're not trying to look around corners. So as you can see there, you can see where they're 90 degrees offset from each other. So you want to just have an idea where they are so when you fasten them, you can get them in place. Next, you're going to install the encoder onto the shaft of the rotary limit. After you install the encoder onto the backside of the limit switches, you're going to tighten the 2 Allen keys that fasten it into place. This is where your marks come into play to make sure that you can line up your Allen keys. As you can see, we're taking advantage of the opening in the bottom of the hoist to set the second set screw on the encoder. If you had x-ray vision like me, you'd be able to see through Patty's hand. So you're going to add thread lock onto the mounting screws for the butterflies of the encoder. Just a little bit of thread lock is all it takes. Before installing the harness, we're going to put 2 of the slugs back into the slot because their space is not required anymore. The third and final slug we've taken apart and removed this knockout from the slug. This will now be put on over top of the cable harness and threaded into the strain relief on the harness. First, you will connect the encoder and the encoder adapter together to the tail of the hoist. Once that's terminated, you can tuck this now inside the hoist. To terminate the control harness first, you're going to locate the control harness and you're going to focus on the fact that the tabs are on the lower side. You're going to take and wire onto the lower set of terminals. Also pay attention that the white wire in the other side of the harness is on the upper right hand side for reference on the orientation. If you wire this backwards, you will damage the hoist. The color code should look as follows: white, black with white, orange, and white with black. Again, notice the orientation of the clips. To finish the assembly, it is best to take and wrap the housing in a piece of packaging tape to make sure that the plastic guard does not come apart and expose the terminals. Once finished, you can tuck it into the hoist. Next, for the high voltage wiring, please pay attention to the orientation of the line 1, line 2, line 3, and ground termination. Note that ground is on the far left side of the connector. When you look at the connector, which we have opened up inside here, you will see that ground crosses from one side to the other, so it does not go straight through inside this junction. You do not need to open up this connector. Termination-wise, our coloring is as follows. Black is phase A, red is phase B, blue is phase C, and ground is earth. I'd show you the finishing termination, but I do not have a final connector to connect into here. So the drawing is outlined and it is correct. Just pay attention to what you're doing and finish it off accordingly. Once you've terminated that harness, you're going to wrap the shell in packaging tape again to ensure it does not expose the terminals if it falls apart. When finished, because the high voltage connector does not have a lock on it to make sure it stays connected, you're going to use the two supplied pan ties to lock the connector in place. This will ensure the connection cannot fall apart in the field. Once you're finished, you can cut the tails off and then tuck the connector back inside the hoist and close up the hoist. You are now finished installing the harness. Please note again, this is for demonstration purposes as our hoist is not completely wired up, but it's to show you the process of what needs to be accomplished.